Hey viewers, my name's Cara, and you're watching my personal channel, CuteWitch772. In my last video, I alluded to another topic that I wanted to speak about, and that's this video. In this video, I want to talk about knowing your audience, or, in some cases, knowing that you don't know your audience. We hear about knowing your audience a lot in reference to authors, TV shows, public speakers, people who are creating something that may have a target audience. And depending on what their target audience is, they might change how they create that work, or even what that work is, depending on who they're making it for, who it's intended for. And there can always be consumers of that final product who are outside that target group, but it's dependent on who exactly are they going for. And sometimes who they're going for is everyone, and that will affect how they do it versus if they're aiming at a specific group. So that's how we often hear this term used. And as YouTubers, we keep that kind of thing in mind too. You know, something that I think of immediately when I think of YouTubers knowing their audience is a few years ago, I watched Tyler Oakley. He made a video where he said that he realized on his YouTube Insights that the majority of his viewers are teenage girls. And so that video ended up being about One Direction, because he thought that would be something that would more appeal to the majority of his viewers. So that's one really good example that I can think of as it applies to YouTubers. But what I want to talk about today is sort of knowing your audience, or knowing that you don't know your audience, in your everyday life. Just as you're out talking to people and doing your thing. Because I can think of several examples from when I used to work at a medical facility as a housekeeper. I worked with a lot of different people, nurses from all walks of life, patients from everywhere, even the doctors occasionally would come in and say something. And at the time I was working there, it was during the presidential election. So as you can imagine, a lot of people were really outspoken about their views. And I was really surprised a lot of the time when, you know, a doctor would walk into the room and just start spouting his political views at the patient. And I would be in the room cleaning, just kind of like keeping my mouth shut, like, what's going on here? And then when the doctor would leave, the patient would look at me and reveal that his views are actually the entirely opposite views from what the doctor had just been shouting at us. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like, how inconsiderate for someone to walk in here and just start talking about their views, not realizing that maybe the person that they're pontificating to doesn't agree with them at all. And we just happen to be smart enough not to say anything at that time, because once you know that that's the kind of person you're speaking to, it's almost better not to engage. Another very similar example, I was cleaning a room, I was sanitizing a room with a fellow housekeeper who, again, was very, very passionate about political views that were entirely opposite of mine. But because she was a coworker, I didn't feel as uncomfortable at one point when she made one specific point that was a view that I actually had a little bit more to say about. I offered my point of view, at which point she realized, oh, I'm, you know, supporting the opposite view kind of from what she was. And at that point she apologized to me, but said, like, yeah, I'm very strongly this, so these are my beliefs, so I'm sorry, but... And then she just kept going. But at least she kind of acknowledged it. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, because recently I've been coming across this a lot, online and in person. People will talk about things, and I'm not talking political anymore, not just politics, but religion, what celebrities they like, their opinion on various pop culture things, I don't know, just anything little that people get really passionate about. And sometimes these things are inconsequential, you know. Some people will rant and rave about how much they love mustard, and I don't happen to like mustard, but that's, you know, ketchup versus mustard, that's not a huge debate. But there are so many things right now that are kind of, you know, they're not politics, they're not religion, there's something little that's just about whether people like it or not, like a movie or something like that. Or if you're more interested in the theater, a certain production of something that's going on, you know, something like that, that in the grand scheme of things isn't a really big deal, but people can be very passionate about it. And I've been coming across a lot of people lately going on these rants and going on these tirades about their views as though everyone that they're speaking to agrees with them. And then especially if it's online, you get all these other people commenting who do agree with them, and then there's this kind of wall of one view, and they're expressing that they think that anyone who doesn't hold that view, anyone who holds the other view or other views, depending on how many other sides to the thing there are, expressing that they believe that those people are stupid or don't know what they're talking about because they don't agree with them. And it's just like, if you're that one person sitting there reading it, and this is happening in one of your communities, and you hold the other view, you're sitting there like, I can't say anything, because at this point, it's, 25-1 or whatever, so you don't engage. But then when you're someone like me, you think back and look back at all the things that I've done in the past where I've been such a proponent of speaking up if you are that one voice, because you're most likely not the only one out there. There's someone else on the other side of this also being quiet and not engaging because they think they're the only one. And so I've always tried to be that person in the past who says something just for two reasons. One, for the benefit of the majority to realize that they are not the only view out there, and two, for the other people who are in the minority to know that they're not alone, that there are more of us and we're just being quiet because the other side is louder and we don't want to get involved right now. Or an example of something that happened recently, I was in a rehearsal with someone who I barely know. The only things that I know about them are things that have been revealed to me, what kind of conflicts they have and what's going on in their life that they can't get to rehearsal. Whether they play sports or whether they're in another show or whether they have church obligations, things like that. And someone brought up a celebrity who I happen to really like, and I know a lot of other people who not only really like this celebrity, but are so incredibly passionate about what this celebrity's work has done for their own life and making them feel better being who they are and things like that. And so this celebrity was brought up, and this person, who I barely know, started talking about how stupid they think that celebrity is and how weird they are and how gross, and maybe now they'll change and they'll get better. Better being something more comfortable for this person and their views. And I just thought, oh my gosh, how does this keep happening, because I had just been in these situations so frequently lately that I kept thinking, oh, know your audience. Like, you don't know that everyone in this room agrees with you, and that's just so inconsiderate. So I ended up saying something a little bit humorous, which was actually a Mean Girls quote, just to kind of break the ice and kind of put my view out there, but in a gentle way that was funny, I thought. And then if someone got the Mean Girls reference, so much the better. And that was it, that was my way of kind of putting it in there, but not engaging in the conversation. And they kept going with their conversation, and people were backing them up and building them up, so I was just like, I'm in the minority again, big surprise. But then the next day I actually got an email from that person saying that they were really glad that I had said something because they heard my comment. And though it didn't affect them at that moment, and they kept talking, later they were thinking about it and realized that they had been being very judgmental and that that's not the kind of person they want to be, and generally that they were just very grateful that I said something because it allowed them to see that just because we don't agree on an issue doesn't mean that we have to be, their words, mean or unkind about it. And I just thought, if that's the reaction that we can get every time that we just gently remind someone that there's another view, wouldn't that be great? If people could just always remember that. Know your audience, or know that you don't know your audience. I know I'm being really vague here, and that's because the specific examples don't really matter. What matters is the feeling that you have when you're that one person and everyone else is kind of ganging up on this other thing. And again, if it was the ketchup versus mustard thing, you wouldn't care, but when this happens with things that you're really passionate about, it's really frustrating that so many people don't think about that before they speak. They don't think about the fact that they don't know everyone in the room. There could very well be people in that room who disagree with you very strongly, or who might be being really hurt by what you're saying, depending on how the conversation is going. And I struggle with it too, and as I was saying in my last video, kind of relating to the not wanting to take so much shit anymore thing, I guess, I don't know how I got into this trend of suddenly not adding my voice to conversations anymore. I just started not engaging because I didn't want to deal with the possible backlash from the people that I don't agree with. And when I was talking to one of my friends about this, or he saw a post I made to this effect or something, he started telling me, like, it's okay every once in a while to let your inner dickhead out and just be a dickhead every now and again and just tell people how you feel. And I was trying to explain to him that in my situation, it's not so much about me being a dickhead. I don't think I'm ever really a dickhead when I express my views. I think I always express them politely, respectfully, whatever the case may be. Even if I'm ranting, I don't ever think I'm being a dickhead. Like, I'm not being personally attacking against people or anything. So I'm trying to tell him, I don't really think that's the issue for me. The issue for me is not wanting to engage because I don't want the other people to be dickheads to me. Like, I just don't want to deal with that because I don't always take it very well. If you catch me on a good day, I can be like, whatever, that doesn't matter, goodbye. But other days, if there's just this deluge of negativity, then I'm just like, I can't, I don't want to, and I don't want to look at it anymore. I don't want to read my comments. I don't want to engage with anyone anymore. And I end up missing the really kind, positive comments because I'm so afraid to go and look and see the really ignorant, awful things that people have to say. But I'm realizing that this is happening, and I don't really want it to happen anymore, because as I said, I watched some of my old videos when I was recategorizing all my videos, and I used to be much more like, hey, this is me, this is what I'm doing, if you don't like it, bye, kind of thing. But I don't know, maybe I just perpetually know that I don't know my audience. I have in the past been called too universal, and I understand that because you can't always aim for that wide audience. You can't please everyone. You can't. So you have to do whatever's best for yourself. There's a song about that. There's more that I could say here, but it's getting long. So I'm going to stop this, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.